Drink your coffee, read your sports, listen to the Dream Report.
Monday morning, July 13th, 2026. Welcome to the Week in Appraising on the Dream Report. I am Marcus.
And I am Dana. We are coming to you with a lot of conflicting signals in the market this week, so we hope you have your coffee ready for the drive.
We are starting today by picking back up on the great used iron standoff. If you've been listening to Casey Seymour and Greg Peterson, otherwise known as Machinery Pete, on the Moving Iron podcast lately, you know they have been making a strong case, specifically on their late June episode, How Supply and Demand Are Shaping Equipment Prices in 2026, and in their earlier discussions on the hollowing out of used inventory. They argued that used ag and construction values are holding firm or even strengthening despite a cooling new equipment market.
It is a compelling thesis, but when you look at the channel-level data, the high end of the market is showing some real complexity. Price Digest's data, as reported by Overdrive, showed 2-year-old Class 8 sleeper trucks averaged $95,290 in April 2026, which is a noticeable drop from the $105,310 average they recorded in March.
Right, and the April commercial truck guidelines from J.D. Power tell a more complicated story. Retail pricing held roughly flat month over month. Wholesale pricing actually rose 3.5%, but auction pricing fell 7.1% on volume that dropped sharply month over month. J.D. Power's read is that units are shifting into the retail and wholesale lanes instead of auction, which is a structurally healthier sign for the market, even with that auction dip.
This is not a gotcha for the moving iron guys. It is just a reminder that used equipment is not a single monolithic market. Broad ag and construction iron seems to be holding up just like Casey and Pete are seeing on the ground, but late model Class 8 trucks are softening, and your valuation is going to depend heavily on which channel you pull your comps from.
Exactly. If you are appraising a fleet of sleepers right now, pulling retail comps might give you a completely different picture than the wholesale or auction realities. It's all about the channel.
Now, to understand why the used market is behaving this way, we have to look at what the OEMs are doing on the new equipment side. Manufacturing Dive recently reported on the 2026 outlooks for Deere, CNH, and AGCO, and all three are actively bracing for a prolonged North American downcycle.
The numbers explain why. First quarter retail tractor sales for 2026 were down 8% year over year, and combine sales fell 7%. In response, all three of these major OEMs are deliberately underproducing relative to retail demand. They're pushing hard on dealer inventory destocking through the rest of 2026 because of high input costs and soft commodity prices.
This connects directly back to the substitution effect Casey Seymour has been talking about on moving iron. When OEMs intentionally starve the pipeline for new equipment, they force buyers to hold on to their existing used iron longer. That tightens the used comp pool, which keeps those used prices artificially firm even as the broader economy cools.
It's a calculated squeeze. A late model tractor in a comp file right now doesn't fit a standard depreciation curve because the supply of new alternatives is being choked off at the source.
Now, let's shift gears to an emerging asset class that's starting to show up in our valuation files, and that is automation. The International Federation of Robotics released their preliminary 2025 World Robotics data on June 18, 2026, and the numbers are significant.
They reported that U.S. industrial robot installations rose 11% year over year to 38,000 units. Automotive remains the biggest user at 13,500 units, which was actually down 1% from the prior year. But the real story is in the food and beverage, which posted 30% growth to reach about 3,000 installations, putting it right on par with the metal and machinery sector and the electrical and electronics sector.
For machinery and equipment appraisers, appraisers, this changes how we look at a plant floor. When you encounter these robotic cells, the resale value is almost entirely concentrated in the robotic arm itself. The custom integration, the specialized tooling, and the safety fencing rarely hold their value on the secondary market.
Yes, the integration cost is essentially gone the minute the system is bolted down. Cost and sales comparison approaches on these assets increasingly decompose the system rather than treat it as one unit. Under orderly liquidation value especially, the robotic arm is the piece pricing out as the one that finds a second home, not the surrounding line.
Let us close today with a quick back-to-basics methodology minute. The Appraisal Foundation has been running an excellent Use Pap Talk Fundamentals series this spring on their Appraiser Talk podcast, hosted by Lisa Desmarais and Amy Kaufman.
They have covered some vital ground recently. Episode 227 covered appraisal versus appraisal review. 228 tackled bias and advocacy. 229 went into the flavors of value. 230 focused on identifying your client and intended users. And episode 231 covered defining intended use and effective date.
These are great, quick listens for your commute. While the hosts often lean toward real property examples, these exact fundamentals apply directly to our work under USPAP Standard 7 for development and Standard 8 for reporting.
It is always worth a refresher, especially on intended use and effective dates when the market is moving as fast as it is right now. We highly recommend giving those episodes a listen to keep your reports tight and compliant.
That wraps up our look at the market for this week. As we head into the rest of July, we will be keeping a close eye on the upcoming second quarter OEM earnings reports and the next episodes of Moving Iron to see if that used iron standoff starts to break.
Have a safe week out in the field, look closely at your truck comps, and we will talk to you next Monday.